Hello, everybody. So, first expectations. We don't see that many men in the room, so we were a bit frustrated by that because we thought that by now, 2025, this would be a theme for everybody, but apparently it's still not. Don't count on us to do like a F-word debate, but we're going to try to go deep into the challenges and everything that we have. First, presentations, because although we are very well known, maybe some people don't know us. So, I'm the moderator and participant also. I'm Catarina Carvalho. I come from Portugal, from Lisbon, where I lead a startup called Mensagem de Lisboa, which is local and constructive and does a lot of collaboration with the communities in Lisbon. So we do grassroots journalism, basically. So I'll give the word to Anuška.
Hi, my name is Anuška Delić. I'm from Slovenia. I'm the founder of a non-profit investigative journalism center called Ostro. Oh, hi. Oh, prosim. I also run our Croatian sister center with the same name and the same mission. And this is Lois.
Hey.
Lo for friends.
Yeah, you can call me Lo. My name's Lois Kapila. I am the co-founder of a local newspaper in Ireland called Dublin Inquirer. We've been going 10 years, and we are kind of committed to sort of public interest, in-depth local journalism. A small team, about 7 of us, primarily subscription funded, but in the last couple of years having to sort of scrape money wherever we can get it from different sources. And I have been running this for 10 years, and yes, that's me.
Hi everyone, I'm Teresa O'Connell. My first name, Rita, which is not what I go by because I was never called it. I just learned today means bum in Slovenian, so thanks for that. Really good piece of info. Anuška, I might actually use it every time I introduce myself from now on. And I'm the editorial director at Are We Europe. We're a pan-European media collective, non-profit working to diversify and innovate the European media space, and we do that both through editorial projects and capacity building projects. I sort of run Our Europe together with also a co-director, which I'm sure we can talk about a little bit more, but
sure.
I wanted to acknowledge that.
And also you will notice that we know each other very well because we are part of this reference circle, which is a group of international independent media going for public service journalism. And we got together 5 years ago. Anyone who wants to join this network, this community, feel free to talk to us after this event. It's very important to have this kind of partnerships and to share with each other, especially in these last few months, I say years or 2 years. And we are here because of that, and we are here also. You will notice a lot of why we know each other. Why we know each other so well. That's the reason, because it's not normal to have this kind of interaction at the beginning of these debates, as you know. When we were discussing this theme, when we were talking about this, Anuška came with this idea that because we are in independent media, we are in a kind of a bubble that kind of where this gender thing is not as important as in other media. We speak to each other as equals. We run these companies as with equality, and so this is the question I would like to start by the debate by, and is this a bubble? Do you think that independent media are really isolated places, like a small paradise where you can be who you are, or you can be treated as equals and treat the others as equals? Is the rest of the context of your countries like this? How do you see this matter?
Whoever.
It was you who brought the
Yeah,
question.
since it's my fault, we're talking about a bubble.
Yeah.
Hi, there's another guy. Also, if you're interested in reference, the entire second row here is full of reference people, so you can actually talk to them when you're sick of hearing us talk.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think we live in a bubble. Work in a bubble, and live, I guess, because we live a lot in our workspaces. We're used to hanging out with like-minded people, doing progressive, independent journalism, etc. And even in a small country like Slovenia, we are simply a minority. And although in these circles, like at this conference or at Data Harvest, at the Global Investigative Journalism Conference especially, you know, you come there and you meet people who pretty much think like you, and, you know, nobody's really bothered by which sex is, you know, in front of you. Whereas that's not the case at the national level. I think that in, you know, definitely mainstream media and in the wider, let's say, media culture in Slovenia, and I can speak definitely for Croatia as well, it's not like that. You're kind of a sore in people's eyes, you know. There's always, it's very easy to attack also women at the helm of journalism, if I can use the title, because there's a notion that like we can't do stuff by ourselves and the male counterparts can. And also I don't want to sound like we're here to bitch about how hard it is to be a woman in journalism, but it is the case that it's a different situation out there than it is within our circle. And it's not paradise, but it's close, because it's very liberating to be able to sit around and talk about this. Like just yesterday, we talked with some of the women from the second row there, precisely about that, you know, and it was very comforting to have this circle of friends to be able to rant and, you know, talk and discuss this. So yeah, we are a little bit privileged, I think.
Lo, did that count when you made this decision to start something new by yourself and some other partners?
No, definitely. I was thinking, and what Anuška said also sort of triggered for me thinking about the structure of the newsrooms that I have worked at, and it has very much been a sort of, horizontal decision making and being left to do sort of my own thing and given a lot of responsibility very early on, and how sort of I've been very lucky in that, but how much of a difference that has made. And when I sort of go into sort of other newsrooms and you notice a lot more the kind of impact of legacy hiring, I guess, on the newsroom structure still. And I mean, for me personally, sort of I had kids, so I've been running this for 10 years, I had kids 5 years ago, and being able to stay sort of at the helm during that, because we have built something that either sort of intentionally or just by sort of either like with strategy or not, it sort of has a flexibility in it that allows for all these different kinds of pressures that different kinds of people face, and the really sort of working around each other a bit more.
Yeah, and also like to tell you a story that happened to me last year, our editor, so we are two, like I'm kind of the CEO and we have an editor that deals with the editorial part. And she got pregnant and she couldn't find as many people in Portugal can't find a nursery for the child, for a daughter. And she said, either I quit or I stay home and work from home. And I was so surprised that she even had the idea that I could ask her to go and work in the newsroom, because, I mean, for me, it's just the same that she's at home. So it wasn't even a question. But I think because she worked in the other media, for her, if she was in the previous newspaper, a traditional newspaper, it would be totally impossible to stay home for a year after the kids, after the ending of the maternity leave, staying home and working from home. It would be totally impossible.
Can I just have a quick just a quick sentence as a countering this? So this is the non-profit or independent media situation. Before I started my own center, I worked at a mainstream legacy daily newspaper, and I actually I was pregnant while we were working on the Panama Papers, and it was quite a a tough pregnancy. So I needed to take like sick leave, but they didn't want to let me work. I had to work, not go on sick leave. They didn't want to let me work from home, so I had to take sick leave to be able to work. So that's the situation in mainstream media. Yeah. So it's quite different, and we are lucky and privileged. Sorry.
Yeah. Teresa, you've worked in many countries, right?
Yes, I've worked in a few, yeah.
What's the situation? What can you describe?
Oh, well, I've worked in a few, but I've only been a sort of co-director in one. Although then, namely in Berlin, where I lived for about 10 years, and with a kind of pan-European team, then it's quite difficult to, you have a kind of, sort of more European culture, if that means anything at all. But for sure, I had different experiences in the past, and in Italy, or with Italian people specifically, where I worked when I was younger, that were definitely sort of discriminating against me for being a woman. And then I actually took some time off the media industry because I just wasn't comfortable with that kind of thing. And I think what it caused in my case was, and I want to share this because I don't know, maybe it's helpful to somebody in the audience. But it sort of made me doubt that I was really given any opportunities for like what I could do. And because I was quite young, probably there was so much that I still had to learn. But at the same time, being kind of given an opportunity, or like being given the feeling that you're given an opportunity because then somebody will either, I don't know, maybe make a move on you or something like that. It can be really, really destroying to your self-confidence. And so it really took some time for me to build that confidence back up. And then I was very lucky to find a team with the Our Europe team that even though when I first joined about 5 years ago, the sort of leadership team was actually male dominated. And then what happened is that a couple of years ago, the founder and director stepped down, and that opened up a space for myself and Sabrina Farmasi, my co-director, to sort of fill that space and reorganize things a little bit. And I think, again, as you mentioned, Lo, it's not always super intentional, but I think you do bring a lot of your experience and your sort of values, and those are necessarily influenced by, the fact that you're a woman in this world, and therefore you also maybe try and create a safe space for other women to feel heard and respected, and like there are things that they can express and that can be accommodated, that are not necessarily, and don't have to be necessarily fully kind of, fully in line with the idea that we have to be productive all the time, that we can't take time off work for pregnancy or for sickness or for child rearing, or, and everything. And of course, all of these things should not fall only on women, but the reality is that very much they still do. And I think that, maybe, like, if I can ask you a question, like, I'm interested in hearing how you feel about, like, whether you feel that it's our responsibility as women to create those spaces for other women, or, like, does that add another burden to us as women in leadership positions that we also need to kind of promote or demonstrate that there are ways, non-hierarchical ways, to lead an organization?
Yeah, from my point of view, and I've led traditional organizations, and I've also led this new organization that was formed by me. And I don't think it is such a thing as a women or man thing. I think that is changing, and the new generations, I feel like we have a lot of younger journalists, and they share the same things, that they can also make the most out of them also, because they also want to have like more time to be in the family, with the kids and everything else. What I feel is that there are different ways of leading, and some of them are more connected. I mean, historically connected to men. But I was a very tough leader when I started being a leader, because I was very young. I was 33, and I started being an editor. An editor-in-chief, not an editor-in-chief, because that's the director. But I was a newsroom editor, and I was really tough with people. And then suddenly I met a guy who was even well, he was tougher than me, and people came to me to complain about what he was doing to their minds and to their souls, because he was diminishing people. And this was like a very eye-opening moment for me. And from that moment on, I understood that it's better to lead with love, with care and attention, and people actually do more if they are treated well. So it was really an eye-opening moment, because I understood that I don't know whether that has to do with men and women, but like treating people as equals is much more important than treating them hierarchically. And so this was something that I learned on the field, as you were saying. I think it has to do also with the burden of the family work, which is still very much prone to women in Portugal. So I think it is something that I don't even think about, because I don't think as a woman or as a man when I lead. I think as a person, right? I don't know if that answers a bit. Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, please. I don't know if it's a responsibility per se. At least for me, I think it just comes kind of naturally. I have to say that it was not intentional, but at Ostro in Slovenia, I think we have 2 men or 3 out of about 15 people. And in Croatia, there is 0. And again, it wasn't intentional, but, and actually from Slovenia, more men than women left. So I don't know what is it about, but I think it's important to create a safe space. And, you know, I maybe wasn't as tough as I imagined you were, maybe. But at first, I was kind of, when I started the center, I mean, I was just a journalist. I was never trained to lead, to do anything, to do budgets, to write proposals. You know, I had to kind of learn by myself. And so at first, I was a little more controlling than I am now, for sure. Not a little, yeah, much more controlling. Simply because, yeah, it was from a state of, you know, damn, what if something goes wrong and it's going to be all on me? You know, the first time I remember we did implant files, a project led by ICIJ, and we had a deal with a local newspaper that they would reprint our stories. And I remember 20 minutes before their print paper, 20 minutes before they had to go to print, I found a mistake in my own work, and I will never forget that moment. I was so freaked out, and that was the single moment when I realized, damn, I'm responsible for all of this now, you know. And that's a tough realization, and then you just learn how to deal with it somehow. And you learn from your own mistakes. Like, I'm notoriously bad at firing people, and you know, it's a mistake. And we've all paid for mistakes like these. So yeah, I hope that I answered your question. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Low.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have loads to add to that. Yeah, it doesn't feel like a burden. It feels like you're just doing what you think is right and the right way to arrange things. And I feel like. Likewise, I think maybe 10 years ago when we started, so I would have been 29 and probably a lot more micromanagey than I am now. So maybe it is also a sort of just general learning during that time, and a sort of confidence in sort of handing over and delegating. And
yeah, there's also another thing that I think we can bring to this table, which also concerns a bit reference and what we are doing in it, which is, we've been talking about this in the last panel about funding. There is a very little capacity building in terms of leadership in the media. When you go to the media, you are used to be a journalist, and you enter as a journalist, and the kind of skills that is needed to be a journalist, which is to be, to work individually mostly, to be sneaky, to be curious, to be like, to go into places where you shouldn't be. That's what I mean. To understand,
Question things,
and that is something that either you are a leader either you have some traits in your character that are of leadership, or you don't have any training. You are just, okay, so now you are an editor. And what do I do with people? I mean, HR people in management have a lot of, they learn a lot in school about what HR is and how to deal with people. And you have, and in that sense, I've had more women who are good bosses than men. And I think that is because they have this kind of leadership maybe at home, maybe they were trained by that, because we deal with a lot of stuff, in everyday life, like going, in traditional places. I mean, not now, but it used to be like that. So I think in that sense, it was also good to be a woman. But I have like another question for you, like in terms of we are here, and I think people are here also to listen to us as people who did their own things, who started their own things, who had the courage to do that. What do you think were the most important challenges that you faced when starting, and did that change? Are they different now? How are you feeling now about those challenges, and what are the new challenges now? Well, whatever. If you want to think like in...
I mean, for us, well, I started myself, and then I was joined after a while by 2 more colleagues.
Maybe you can tell a bit how you started, like just a little bit of the story.
What do you mean?
Like...
It's not a short story.
Make it short.
No,
You're
actually,
a journalist.
In short, I had to leave the legacy paper for reasons I cannot disclose.
Okay.
And I was literally faced with 3 choices. Either A, I go to another legacy media where I'll be in the same situation in 2 to 4 years. Because, Anuška's always investigating. And she's just always investigating and doing research. So I was getting on people's nerves because it was a daily newspaper. And I was also getting on their nerves when I was prosecuted by, there was an indictment against me filed by the intelligence agency. I was also getting on their nerves then. So, I kind of felt out of place all the time. And I thought, okay, so I can go do that somewhere else. I can leave journalism, or I can do this crazy beep thing. And I did this crazy beep thing, and I'm here. The challenges, for sure, in the first 2 years, for sure, or more, was just staying afloat, not dying. I mean, not physically, or sometimes not physically. Just mainly getting money.
Getting money.
Because we're twice discriminated on the donor market. We're from the EU, and we're a tiny shithole country from the EU, which means that everyone else is more important than us. So that definitely changed. I'm not gonna brag right now because things can change quickly again, but things are much, much better now in that respect. One thing I already mentioned was just getting a grasp on you're actually leading this ship, you have to be the captain here. I think I'm better at that. What I also very much struggled with was we have one of the most brutal editorial processes at Ostro in our country. That there's a reason for that, because in the legacy media, I missed more scrutiny. So just setting that up and making it work, and not tweaking it as we went, etc. That was quite a challenge, and I think we have a good thing going now, and we're much faster and more efficient. So yeah, I think those things.
Yeah, so I moved to Ireland sort of 12 years ago, I guess. And before that, I was a reporter in India for a couple of years, and I'd wanted to go back to the UK, but immigration reasons I couldn't. So I grew up in the UK. So I ended up moving to Ireland and still wanting to do journalism. And I guess I sort of quite quickly saw this gap in in journalism for in-depth local journalism, and I'd had some experiences in the US at some of the one alt weekly there that did sort of longer form local journalism, and in India I'd done sort of longer form stories and had a lot of freedom. But obviously, you know, I wasn't from Ireland. I'm not from. Well, I don't know. And I was quite young. So, I mean, the challenges obviously were getting funding from that position. I tried to get jobs at newspapers there, but didn't have any luck, even on sort of graduate schemes. And everyone said to me, it's really hard to break into if you're not from here. It's really hard to break into it. So after a while, I sort of just took that advice and said, okay, I'll set something up that is open to people who aren't from here and is open to people who don't have connections and can also fill this gap in in-depth local reporting. And from that, and also doing the business plan, I thought this is only going to work if it's a subscription model. And that was another problem at the time, because 10 years ago in Ireland, everybody said to me, nobody is going to pay for journalism. No one is going to pay for local journalism. You know, things have changed a lot now. Everybody has a subscription model, paywall. It's what they're chasing. It maybe has lost some of the shine of 3 or 4 years ago as the silver bullet. Yeah, so it was a combination of things. Like, you know, that getting the funding was just hard. So, you know, we... because, yes, partly because I'm a woman, partly because I hate corporate environments and just crap at selling myself in those. Maybe it's related, maybe it's just me. Partly because I was young, partly because I wasn't from there. All kinds of reasons that were, yeah, probably not conducive to that.
Teresa, you didn't really found our Europe, but you are like, you know, in a very like central position.
Yeah, and I never really aspired to be. Yeah, I mean, that's also okay. I never really aspired to start my own thing. I think that what I really wanted to do was to be able to do more of what I loved, which was kind of making collaborative stories and especially sort of editorial work. And I just love the aspect of kind of making magazines or like sort of different, different multimedia journalistic projects that also maybe use narrative techniques and are sort of really good like stories in their own right. And then suddenly when the founder sort of Our Europe stepped down, as I mentioned earlier, that I realized that maybe the only way that I could continue doing that, or maybe actually the way that I could do that, well, at least try and do that more, was by then filling that that space, and that's what we're trying to do. So I can't share what the challenges were of starting up my own project, but I can definitely share maybe an ongoing sort of struggle, which is how, you know, which I think about a lot, maybe too much, which is how do you sort of uphold the values and the your ideal version of like what that collaboration or what that leadership looks like with the pressures of, you know, funding shortages, time pressure, and the fact that we're all under a lot of stress, and then sometimes those kind of, you know, the ideal ways of doing things suffer, and that is something that, a challenge that I still struggle with. And it's also because, as you said, like, I never got any training, and I've had some, well, I've had a lot of support, I have to say, and also with the reference network, it's been really, really helpful, because I joined the network at the time when I was kind of stepping up as director, and I really found a lot of support there. And sometimes you don't actually need to sort of use that support, but knowing that it's there is already kind of very reassuring. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't solve the struggles entirely.
Yeah. So you the three of us, the four of us, but the three of you said the most important challenge was fundraising, and it was like keeping things afloat. What would you say? Like, what would you give as an advice? One advice, only one, on that, because you said we are women. We are not known from the elites or the corporate elites. We are from the outside world, and all those things add to being difficult to fundraise. So how do you solve that? One advice.
You go first, Catarina. You go first.
Okay, so I never do anything that isn't like prepared a lot. Like I always over prepare. I do presentations. I know exactly what I'm going to say to this person, which is not always the same as I do to another person. So I change the narrative as I go, and I think I am not bragging, but I don't mind talking well about ourselves and what we are doing. I think many people just diminish themselves when they are talking about themselves. We never spent, at Mensagem, we never spent €1 doing marketing, and we are always doing marketing. So we brag a lot about what we do. So preparing yourself, applying the message to that person or that foundation or whatever, and not being afraid to brag. So three advices.
I'm going to counter you. I actually think...
As always,
I'm more spontaneous than that. And it's actually, like, the one advice I have to give is to any woman or man doing what we do, is it's okay to think on your feet. It's okay to like not be prepared so much, so that you have space to kind of come up with solutions on the spot. You know, when a donor approaches you and maybe they want to give you money, but you have a very short time frame to prepare something, you need to, there's no time to prepare well. And also, like you said, you want to prepare everything, what you're going to say to people.
That can be 1 hour before the meeting.
Yeah, I don't do that. I just go head first. So usually it pays off, but sometimes it doesn't, I have to be honest.
No.
But pretty good, yeah.
Okay.
So that would be one advice. Yeah, think on your feet.
Yeah, I mean, just asking, I guess.
Yeah.
I think we had a big issue. You know, you say you speak very confidently about the publication, but for years I absolutely did not.
Oh.
Everything was qualified. Everything was sort of 100 caveats, so that it became completely impenetrable. And I think I've gotten better at that, better at doing clear asks. And you know, it goes along with transparency when it comes to, say, subscribers, what we're doing with your money, and we're very, very open about everything. But I feel like that there's a kind of the reluctance to ask for money. I mean, you're not going to get anywhere, right? And if you're laughed out of a room, who really cares? Like, so really trying to build up that sense of not giving about that.
Don't be ashamed to ask.
Yeah.
I think, you know, if you're a majority women newsroom or sort of media organization, in the space that we work in, which is the the European space, and often with EU funding, that kind of is a good sell. It doesn't mean that we get necessarily a lot of funding, but you know, it is a good sell. It's a good starting point because the diversity element is built into a lot of these funding calls and considerations. However, I think we also need to acknowledge that women, or like, gender balance is only one element of that diversity, right? And so we can't stop at that, and we really need to do our best. And I do feel some responsibility as well to sort of open that up and try and, you know, and keep working on that to sort of, to look at everything else that also means diversity, because, you know, look at us. I mean, we're still representative of a fairly cohesive, I guess, like, group of people and social class, maybe. I mean, I don't know all of our backgrounds too well, but, you know, Anyway, sorry. Just, huh? Not by that much.
Yeah.
No, anyway.
when we were discussing this in the preparation, because yes, we did prepare this, although Anuška didn't want that. Actually, she wanted a lot to prepare everything, but yeah, I was...
I'm going to fact check that.
Okay, you can. We were discussing the coverage. So how much does a women leadership or a women-only newsroom or a women-led newsroom changes the coverage? And I brought the example of Mensagem, which is, by the way, a very communitarian media. We don't do politicians, we don't do a lot of elites. We do mostly people who are doing things in the city and who are transforming the city by their hands. And I shared with them that suddenly, me coming from a very traditional newspaper, almost all the coverage was by middle-aged men. And now, because we are covering people that are doing things in the city, we have a lot of women suddenly. And the webpage is very much mixed. And because it is, we even started to do it even more mixed. So when we have like 4 or 5 men in a row, I always say, come on girls, let's do like a little bit of mixing here. How much of this is true? Like how much of your experience is that if you have a leadership by women or a majority of women in the newsroom, does that contribute to also a more equal coverage of things?
I think I'm letting the side down, because often when I meet people, they say, I thought you were a white old Irishman. so I'm not sure what that says about the stories that I write. But don't laugh. I look just like a white old Irishman. But I think that it probably does make us slightly more open to pictures and stories about sort of childcare crisis or things that might be downplayed or deprioritized by other newsrooms, for sure. Single mothers who probably sort of. But I guess trying to build a relationship with your audience where you have lots of input all the time and lots of ability for them to shape your coverage, that's probably, I guess, more important.
Thing.
Yeah.
Should I? Yeah, I mean, I think that. Yeah, I mean, I think it's necessarily your experience and your biases are going to reflect in the work that you do and select, among a pool of possibilities. And I think that obviously you also, it's not entirely arbitrary. You also have a responsibility for putting in place criteria that you follow. And it's not that by representing maybe more stories about women, it means that they're any less rigorous or any less kind of interesting or valid than stories about men or by men.
Yeah, but for example, do you struggle to have women talking about things? Because that's something that happens a lot on TV, that women don't want to go on TV as much as men.
Yeah, with photos.
They're not invited, though.
We have a big issue with that, yeah. Like in terms of having to go slightly the extra mile to make sure that we have as many female sources, female experts, photos. Women are often very reluctant to do. So no, that's definitely still an issue. And I guess, I guess we ordered it. We try to make sure, sort of informally, and try to make sure that we're doing it. But yeah, it's still.
I have to say, I mean, I don't think that the prevalent females on the team are doing anything differently than if there were males. Actually, Ostro works in the public interest. I have the official status of working in the public interest in media in Slovenia. So for us, we will tackle anything that we can actually tackle because we have the hands, the capabilities, and it's actually possible to prove something if it's in the public interest. And we don't really stop at, topics that are more we don't even think that we don't think that way at all.
Sorry, if I might just add that if I get a story and there's no women voices in the story, I am going to object. I want to know that somebody has at least tried to find women who have something to say about something. And actually, like years ago, this is something that I somehow always took for granted, and I always implemented in my work. And a few years ago, I was talking to a journalist friend about how much I was struggling to find a woman to comment on a piece that I was writing. And she really she was like, oh my God, I never thought of that. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, how can you have never thought intentionally about including women in your stories? And so, in a way, we all take it for granted, but not everybody does, like somehow, still, which is, to me, bizarre. But yeah. Oh my God. Thanks, Anuška. Let's hang out more later.
Yeah. Anuška, you said that you are working in a I'm not sure if it's dangerous, but it's a difficult environment. You were talking about this, and of course, journalists are on the front line, so they are much criticized, they are attacked, and everything else. But there is a lot of talk about harassment, especially for being women. And because of that, and letting down, and all of that, do you feel that? Does your team feel that? Since they are
my team also, but my team is also guilty just because they're associating with me. So literally, they get attacked because they work at Ostro. There's the main fake news portal loves us. They have serials about us. I mean, it's funny, but it's actually really tragic because we work with a lot of students. Our fact-checking department doubles as an incubator for future investigative reporters because we train them as they do fact-checking. And they literally get ravaged by social media, fake news portals, etc. And it's really hard because we are losing actually good journalists because of that. Because young people today see that journalism is a very dirty circus and they don't want to be part of it. But I've been a journalist for so long that first I was getting handwritten cards as a tax, or letters to the editor, or, bullshit reports to the ethics court and stuff like that. With the onset of social media, of course, all that moved on social media. And yeah, I remember a very unsavory discussion on Twitter. Somebody found my pregnant picture from a workshop that I was doing. And, they were comparing me to the Michelin Man, and, they were talking about, what does her child eat, if she eats this much. It was quite disgusting. And of course, they didn't remove that discussion. I remember one time, I've said this example in a few places actually, because it's quite like, wow. So because our fact-checking department is a meta third-party fact-checking thing, so these people are often convinced that we are the ones moderating discussions on Facebook, that we, block profiles, whatever, which is not true. But that doesn't stop them. So I remember once this woman wrote to me on Messenger, accused me of supporting pedophilia, and was really aghast that I, as a woman and a mother, am supporting pedophilia. Because she reported a comment by a known or somebody has pedophilia, whatever, and it wasn't removed. Instead, she was blocked, so she was convinced that we did it, and blah, 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 blah. So I was literally accused of, those things, and that's hard. I always try to talk to them if they're not too crazy. I was
going to say that. How do you protect yourselves from that? Or you don't?
Well, I mean, my skin is a little thicker already after all these years. But if they're not too crazy, I try to explain to them, send them links. Look, here, if it's about this fact-checking, that's going to be over now anyway in this year, pretty sure. So no more attacks like that. But I just tell them, look, there's a link. This is where you can read about this program, blah, blah, blah. This is not what we do. And, she never apologized, of course, but she did stop with her attacks, which was good. So yeah, and I already said that I was, that the intelligence agency filed an indictment against me. That was because I was investigating neo-Nazis in the main right-wing party, and that party came into power, and it was a completely politically motivated prosecution. And lots of other things that we could spend the whole panel on that, and we don't want to, because it sucks, and unfortunately it's a part of our job today. But what I'm gonna go back to the beginning of what I was saying just now. I think it's really important that we tackle it, because we are, again, repeating, we are losing really good, talented young people
because of that,
who we need, because we need them to sit here 10 years from now. And we are losing them, because of all these attacks, and because you can't really do anything legally. Like, we can't really fight them legally, and even if we wanted to, we don't have the money. And usually the money that's available for legal protection, it's actually legal protection from slaps that Ceci has too much experience with there in the second row. But nobody wants to give us money to protect ourselves legally. So we have a lot to do there, I think.
Anybody else? No? Okay.
No, I mean, we have, in a way, we're lucky to be less public-facing than Ostro and your team, Anuška, so...
Yeah. So I would like to open the debate. There's a lot of people here. Let me give to the outsiders first. Second row and third row. Yeah, the second row can ask things later. Yeah. Can you present yourselves, please, first? What? No. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. So I spent over 20 years in mainstream media before. I spent 20 years in mainstream media before joining an independent news organization this year. Doing some amount of gender mainstreaming work and always being faced with statements like, oh, I don't know about this, I'm not a woman, so therefore, you know about it, you go ahead and do it, right? So I'm curious about the kind of how intentional you have been in the design of the processes within your organization that have reflected your values and your experiences in such a way that would benefit the wider ecosystem. Could you take us through some of your decisions that you have taken? I'm sure you must have faced many trade-offs as you were building up your own organizations. I'd like to find out a bit more about how you have designed the processes within your organizations to reflect that.
So we have a code of conduct from pretty much the first day of establishment of Ostro, and it pretty much sums up our values and what we do and what we don't do. And it's really helpful. We point every new person that comes to the team to the code. I'm not sure what you meant by trade-offs. Like, what kind of trade-offs do you mean?
I think Teresa had mentioned something related to how you have funding constraints, but then you also want to do the ideal version of the stories that you're aiming for. These are, I guess, some of the common trade-offs that you see. What have you encountered?
For me or for us, I have to say that the unfortunate trade-off is that there's always too many good stories to do and not enough people, always. So we have to, pick and choose, unfortunately, and that there's a long list of things that we want to do and have not yet gotten around to doing. One of those, for example, is the house rules that we actually have already pretty much written, but it's not confirmed yet at the level of the team. And it's about, when do we leave each other space to breathe and live and not call each other and not email and, to send emails on Saturday if you want, but it has to arrive on Monday, not over the weekend and stuff like that. So we try to look out for our people. And after we lost 3 people, 3 very, very well developed and senior people, and they also left journalism, we had to have a lot of talk. Like we had to have a hard look at how we are doing, what our processes are, etc. And we have implemented changes, in the form of, for example, once a month I sit with every person on the staff to see how they are doing, what's going on in their lives. After editorial meetings, we have a checkup, like how stressed are you right now? How do you feel, etc. So we try to look out for each other more and make it more systematic, because there's care always. It's just sometimes there's no, you just get pulled in by other things, and somehow care is like left in the corner. I don't know if that answers your question.
Sorry. Do you have,
Yeah, I guess I don't know about sort of trade-offs, but choices that we've made, I guess, in terms of how we run things. Like we don't expect people to be on social media. They don't have to be. We don't have like a very sort of, there's a push to do very personalized journalism and to be a face. And those who want to do that in the organization can, but those who don't want to or don't feel comfortable or are more likely to be sort of attacked because of the beat that they do or because of what they look like or where they come from, there's no penalty for not doing that. Or for finding a different way to get it out there that doesn't put themselves in under so much attack, or especially from sort of far right. And then, so there's that kind of distribution and how we manage that. And then I guess for us, there's always a choice between we want to be very open and working with lots of new people and doing it in a way that they're always paid for it. But that there's also a kind of constant choice between taking on more experienced people and enabling a bit more flexibility in the organization, because we don't have to have so much oversight or mentoring, and taking on more younger people and having to do like more of that caring work and not looking after ourselves maybe quite as well. I don't know if that answers that question, but those are the kind of 2 sort of in terms of being open and flexible and
I just want to, sorry.
No, I was just going to say that from my perspective, it's also always a work in progress. So, even that ideal version of like your work and your organization, like will change. And so, you'll make different choices at different times depending on the needs. And I guess that it's always really good to check yourself and also like your organization and keep going back to questioning things essentially.
Yeah, just Anuška wants to add.
I have
something.
a flip side to this. Like I was talking about caring and caring about the team and making sure that they're doing okay. But the downside of that is that nobody is looking out for you as the leader.
Yeah.
And we discussed that yesterday also with some friends, colleagues, and they feel similarly. It's a cliche, but it is lonely at the top.
It is. That was another question that I didn't.
We discussed it at the prep session too, in the sense like, not in the whiny sense, like nobody loves me, but just you're always looking out for others, and you feel that even when you yourself are down, like going through hard things in your personal life, etc. There's seldom anyone there that even thinks that you might have problems. It's expected of you to kind of forget yourself a little bit, which is normal and good and works well, but sometimes it doesn't. And so after we implement all the changes to make sure that the team is good, I'm going to start implementing changes also to make sure that I can also handle the load.
Yeah, and now I think only one person will answer, okay? So that we can make another question. Okay. We have 5 minutes.
We're going to have to fight for it.
Awesome.
Be short, be short.
No pressure whatsoever. First of all, thank you so much for the panel. It was a very interesting panel, and it opened some minds and give us more food for thought. So my name is Maro Mastrandrea. I just recently graduated from the Department of Digital Media and Communications at the Ionian University, and I'm going to stand by some words that Mrs. Delić said, that we are losing...
Don't say Mrs., please.
Sweet spot.
Respect to seniors.
Anuška.
I respect seniors, that's why I call them with the last names. I'm going to stand by with what you said specifically, that we are losing good journalists, and majority of the people who want to pursue this career in journalism end up leave this field. I am the complete opposite. I am in fact trying to pursue a career in journalism, that's why I'm here. But my question is, and whoever wants to answer it, good for you. My question is, how can we diversify as journalists in a society where benefits and us trying to survive play a main role in young people's lives? Thank you.
I work with a lot of young, I'm sure you too, but one of the things that I think it's really important, it's that you understand, I mean, of course there is the core business of being, the core work of being a journalist, but there are many other things connected to journalism that you have to at least understand and know how the nuts and bolts work and how to deal with this, because organizations are smaller and smaller, even the big ones are getting smaller, and it's good for you to see the whole picture and to understand the whole picture so that it doesn't happen what Anuška was saying, because I feel that happens. People don't really know what it takes to fundraise, to have this burden on your shoulders, to also, to edit, to understand that the title can give you a slap. So I think that people tend to be very individualistic journalists, and so the less individualistic journalist that you are, I think the more successful you'll be in this profession. But maybe somebody doesn't agree with me, but I think for me it's, yeah.
I want to counter. No,
yeah.
I'm kidding. No, I want to add. That I'm really happy to hear that you are passionate, young, and want to be a journalist, because that's rare today, in all honesty. That's why I'm so sad when we lose young people from our team. I'm sad when we lose older people, seniors, from our team also. But the young people are really, like, that really breaks my heart. Because the fact that they are working with us, we're an investigative and data journalism center. It's not like, it's a hard genre, right? So they're already there. So that means that they have the passion, they have the push, but sometimes, somehow, they decide to go study something completely different because they don't want to be in this profession. Whereas at the majority of young people, and I speak at our Faculty of Social Sciences occasionally, well, every year pretty much, so I see the generations, and I have to say that the majority just want to be like badass TV journalists, or like online influencer type of journalists, and so I commend and I welcome everyone that wants to actually do actual journalism. And when you decide to do that, I don't know how to respond to your question, to tell you, like, I don't have a magic wand or a recipe. You want to say something else?
Yes, I just wanted to mention that specifically in Greece, majority of the news outlets are pretty much connected into a political party or some other
oligarchy. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Most of the time,
no, most of them, but there are independent ones.
Some news are, some are not, majority of them are not, and most of the times young people tend to consume news through social media and rarely from older and traditional news.
Yeah, we have 1 minute, so I have to shut you down.
Sorry.
Okay? Because there's another.
We can discuss later.
Absolutely.
Hi, sorry, now I feel like I'm going to end the whole thing on a downer, but let me start by saying that was beeping inspirational, so that's an upper.
You can curse.
You're all amazing. I just wanted to, I guess, I was reflecting on the first question when you were like, are we in a bubble in this progressive independent media space? And I guess I just want to reflect that, like, the patriarchy is, like, alive and well in the independent progressive space. And I don't think it's, obviously it's better. The men, the men that are in it are generally progressive and better, but I guess I'm an impact editor. You can hear about that if you want in a panel at 3. But and I convene this network of people in impact and engagement roles all around the world. It's like grown over the last 6 years as this whole space has grown. Every single time we do a meetup, there's maybe more than 100 people on that list now. I'd say maybe 10% of the people, maybe less, are men. It's all women. It's like the caring part, even in independent progressive media, which is the caring kind of journalism, it's the specifically caring bit, right? So, and it's just always like, wow, okay, there's no men on this. And then, you talked about love and care. I've been to a bunch of, all the sessions that you go to that are about constructive leadership at conferences like that, it's always women. I guess I'd love to see maybe a session like this where we actually address sexism in the non-profit media space, because nobody, anyway, that's the... But,
there's sexism in non-profit journalism as well.
Maybe it's not a very, I just feel like we need to, what do we do about that? Like, how do we get the men even, 'cause I think...
We need another session.
I don't think there's enough reckoning of that and recognizing of that we've still got a lot of work to do in, like, changing that within this space. Yeah. Maybe that wasn't a very constructive...
No, absolutely.
Thank you, Miriam.
I think, and nobody disagrees with that at all. We were actually, when you guys all came in, we were also, as Catarina mentioned at the beginning, a little bit disappointed that most of the people in the audience are women, because, preach to the choir. At which point do we?
We commend all the men that are sitting here.
Absolutely, yeah. But you also have to start.
An applause for the men.
And I guess it's. Hang on, an applause for the women. Yeah, but you're right, and and that's also what we said. It is in paradise, but at least, like, I guess that you have to start from somewhere, and that these conversations are happening is already, I guess, in a way better than if they weren't.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Do you still want to?
Yeah, she has a short question.
There was also one at the back. Can we have 2 more questions?
I have different hats, but. Okay, be very short. I have loads of hats, but now when I say something as an investigative reporter, I think this is very positive and important, but I think we need more spaces not only to comment on leadership, but also how certain topics are still seen as off topics to women. My expertise is organized crime, and I lead a team of 6 men. It's really hard, at least in Italy or Southern Europe, I see really hard to see women in certain reporting about certain issues. The majority of our sources, or the people that can comment and are allowed to comment, are, cops or what have you, are men. The majority of managers in companies. So one of the interesting questions would be, but for another session, what about our audiences? Like, majority of them are white men in their 50s.
No,
but,
actually not.
I think it would be really important. So this is actually an invite. Maybe reference can take up on that. We could create sessions to also, I think that would be my dream, for women and men to join in, also about not only those off topics, but what it means for women doing the same type of reporting that men do when it comes, for example, to field work, or even, very stupid maybe, but even sleeping in hotels in a city like Athens and going back at night, it's not the same thing for women reporters or men. So, and all of this is not tackled ever in any discussion. So I think this is a beginning of something that we can bring up together.
Keep working.
Yeah. What else? Who else? Can we do one more? Okay. Who is going to kill us? Yeah, but...
And yes, Chechi, we obviously agree with you. And
yeah, we do.
Hello, my name is Ileana. I'm graduating this year from jury. I studied jury here in Greece, and I studied journalism. My question is, what advice would you give young female journalists just starting out? Like starting their career?
Don't get discouraged.
Yeah, I think we already kind of said that when we were like saying, why did we start this? It's like, not being so. I mean, there's this. What's it called? The complex of inferiority. The
Imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome. I think that is imposter syndrome is one of the most important things, that you always feel not enough, right? And this is something that you have overcome by yourself or with help, like mental health help. But it's one of the most important things, not to concede to those feelings of insecurity. Also,
I would say also, if you can, try to find a good editor. It might not be someone who you work with for that publication, but I think you're entering it at a really hard time. We all need to look at like that precarious gap at the bottom of journalism. It's just so frustrating in terms of getting diverse team reporters, and it's just so low paid and it's so precarious. And but I feel like so that's something internally that we all should be constantly pressing to bridge. But yeah, if you find a good editor, like it's sort of
Okay. We have to stop because we have to eat, basically. There's these needs.
Thanks so much, everyone.